Welcome. It is episode 71 of They Talk Funny. My guest today is the fabulous Leighann Lord. Thank you, Leighann, for dropping in. We've had a little bit of difficulty getting this actually to happen,
Yes,
but
we have. We have.
welcome. Okay, for those unfamiliar with Leighann Lord, why? Second, she is an internationally touring comedian. She has played Baghdad, Brooklyn. She has played Montreal. She's played Halifax, Canada. So she is well versed with Canadian culture, and a very funny lady is her website. Let's not pull any punches here. Just so there it is, veryfunnylady.com is their website. And how are you today? Are you having a good day?
I am. I'm having a good day. Thank you for
Oh,
asking. Because it really is day by day right now on our planet.
trust me, I definitely know. I definitely know. There is. I just noticed that we had a little bit of a glitch, but I'm hoping that it's not going to go any further than that. Now, your comedy style, you are, and I want to welcome anyone that is viewing. If anyone has any questions and wants to ask them of Leighann, please just drop them into chat. Also, tell us where you're watching from. Now, you're more of a storyteller type comic, and I wouldn't describe your style as aggressive at
Am
all.
I?
Well, it's how I would see. So
No, but
how
you
do you
can
see
be an
yourself?
aggressive storyteller. Yeah. I guess I refer to myself as just a pure monologist, set up punchline. Yes, there I do have routines. I never thought of them as stories, but I guess they do tell stories. It's just that storytelling is something that's very specific and not necessarily doesn't necessarily have to be funny. Uh,
True.
so yeah, so I guess there are stories in there, but I consider myself a pure monologist.
We also have a comment that I heard Leanne, ma'am, on DryBar and loved it. And love from
Oh,
India. So
thank
Sahil
you.
Wood Hwani is talking to us from India. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Yes,
Uh,
thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I, a lot of people say like stories help them keep the setup punch in order uh,
Yeah.
because you have the through line.
Yes.
But by saying storyteller, I didn't try to say that you were not as funny. It's
Oh,
I
no, no, no,
consider
no, 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 no. I didn't take it that way at
okay.
all. Not at all.
We got two non-aggressive people here, so no, please.
No, I'm not. I'm so not. I'm so not.
So yeah, you would so you're a monologuist and set up punch. That's how you would
Mhm.
describe your style, or
I guess the form, of how
mm,
I do things in terms of my style, or the topics that I talk about. Again, it's not aggressive. I've been told that I'm a uh my comedy sneaks up on you, I guess. Like I talk about life, I talk about my life, I talk about, family, I talk about, those experiences of life, so to speak. And we're going merrily along, and next thing you know, I'll say something and it's a punch in the throat. Because nobody's expecting it from me. It's like it's funny. People consider me a clean comic if we're going to look at comedy that way, and that's always made me laugh in the sense that I do curse. It's just that no one ever really hears it because I use the words very specifically the way they were intended. And when I do use an expletive, there's absolutely no other word that would have done better in that position. So when words are used appropriately and accurately and intentionally, you're not getting the um, I guess any sense of aggression or any sense that I'm overusing something just to get a rise out of you.
I understood. There's an old punk music saying, but I want to mention Don Zanklin is just chiming in, funny comedian from Ottawa, watching from Ottawa, Canada, 4 years into stand up comedy, and I want to know what was your biggest challenge, I believe, as a black woman who performs stand up, and how did you counter it?
Oh wow. My biggest challenge as a black woman doing comedy continues to be my biggest challenge. Hasn't gone away because neither has my blackness or my womanness. So it's it's still an ongoing struggle, believe it or not. But there are several things. It's and this comes up cyclically. every few years the cycle comes up about whether women are funny or not, and we get distracted with that battle instead of looking at ways that women can be continue to be included. Instead of doing a show where there are 10 people on a showcase show and two of them are women. Those are the real arguments or the real debates that should be happening. So being included, not being discounted because I'm a woman, and then you magnify that being black. The thing there that also happens is people wanting to pigeonhole you. They think because you're black or because you're a woman, you do a particular style of comedy, you do comedy in a certain way, or you only speak to women, or you only speak to black people, or you only speak to people of color. When comedy, in many ways, to me, is meant to be sometimes universal and be that thing that connects us. So fighting against those things is an ongoing battle. And the way that you fight it is you continue to show up. You continue to perform, you continue to put yourself out there, because if you're waiting for people to just automatically and lovingly and magically accept you, it's going to be a long wait. So you keep going to the clubs, you keep getting your spots, you keep growing your talent and your repertoire of material. And I don't know what else to say that will help you. Well, also to have friends in the fight, so to speak. People who you commiserate with at the bar or at the diner. When your set is done. Those people that affirm you and support you, and you do that for them as well, because this is a very lonely ride. Being a stand-up, it doesn't mean that you don't get to build community around you. So I hope that helps.
Chosen family. The comments are coming in fairly quickly here. Sahil is saying the fact that set Leighann apart is that she's really stylish in the way that she speaks and delivers her lines, and it sounds so good. I tried imitating it, and I sounded like a donkey.
I don't know what that means.
I think that they're praising your classiness. You dress up for the stage. You're one of
Yes.
the type of comedians that will dress for a stage.
Yes, I
There's
do.
the idea that you dress to impress. You dress like you do on a
Yes,
first date kind
I
of
do.
thing for the audience.
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely, I do.
and I think Sahil was addressing that, and
Ah,
they're applauding that you're what you said earlier about keep showing up, keep doing it. Uh, but there, just so much I want to jump in on. That was like so perfectly said. Like there's so many times there's plaid shirts and guys with beards, and it's like they all have the same voice. There's too many shows you go to, and it's just that I want to hear a diversity of voices, and and I'm not the only one that wants to. So there's no question that diversity in a show makes it better. Don is saying
great.
thank you, so very helpful. Sorry about the typo.
No worries. No
No
worries.
worries, Don. I'm doing a show
And
with Don next week, actually.
yay,
Yeah,
she's showing up.
she's showing up. She is definitely showing up. She's showing up and excelling. So that's
You,
all
you know
part
the,
of it.
the the thing you said about diversity, like five guys in plaid shirts or beards, and nothing against a good plaid shirt or a well trimmed beard for sure.
And
But
it's nothing about if they have different points of view, but
well,
too
that's what I was
often.
going to say. Yeah, yeah, it's the point of view. Unfortunately, sometimes we get into sort of the flavor of the month in terms of topics, or young comics, in the business will see a veteran talking about something, and now they want to talk about it, whether or not they've fully formed their opinions or their jokes or whatever. But you can, in my opinion, have you know five of the same type of comic. You can have five women on stage. You could have five men on stage, or you can mix it up and give them the exact same topic. We could all be talking about, say, kids or marriage
Yeah,
or dating. It could be that one topic, and five different comics, their opinions, their point of view should be so clearly defined and clearly different that you will hear a different take and still be thoroughly entertained at the end of the night. Rarely are we all showing up talking about the same thing, but that comes, I think, from the strength and expertise of the comic and the courage to be able to you know, have more than one thing you talk about on
yeah.
stage. You're living a full life and you're bringing that on stage with you.
Again, well said. This is. I feel like I shouldn't be asking any questions at this point. Just let you talk.
No, not at all. No. Yes.
Uh,
Hi, my name's Leighann. Welcome to my TED Talk about comedy. Like, no.
yeah. No. As with your style, with your presentation, the fact that you enjoy encouraging the audience to think, because a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
a lot of your like you sort of like plan a roadmap for them, but you leave the last step for them to figure out. Uh,
Yeah. I don't, again, I am considered, I don't know if this is the right thing to say about myself, an intellectual comic, a smart comic. I do smart comedy. That doesn't mean I like leaving anyone out. No joke left behind, so to speak. I want you to get it. I'm going to step you through it so that we are all together. And I kind of selfishly want everybody to have a good
mhm.
time and think I'm amazing. But my twin goals when I get on stage is always and always has been to enlighten and entertain. So if you walk away with ha ha, that's great. But if I can get you from the ha ha to the aha, I've done even better. If I can get those two things happening for you somewhere in my set, more ha-has, of course. That's why we're there. Otherwise, it's a lecture, and then I have to give you a degree at the end of it. But if I've made you laugh, and then somewhere in there, the light bulb went off about something, it doesn't have to be deep. It could just be something, I hadn't thought of it that way. Then I've really done my job, that night. So.
Mm.
Yeah, that's what does it for me.
Sahil is adding a lot to the conversation. Do you want me to bring some more on? Uh,
Sure.
Sahil is saying women are funny and they have a natural sense of humor because half their lives are filled with struggle. The problem lies with comedy being under constant scrutiny. Recent examples being Dave Chappelle.
Mm.
We as audience need to realize the intention with which a punchline or a thing was said,
Yes.
because if the intent is taken out, there's no difference between a judge awarding a capital punishment and a criminal. Um,
Yeah, gosh, man, we somewhere along the way in the grown-up world have lost a sense of context.
yeah.
We've lost a sense of intent. We've lost a sense of nuance. I do people not understand what comedy is? It's like people go to comedy clubs and want to be angry and want to be offended. I do quite a number of corporate events for which I am grateful, but the constraints, similar to doing college, also like doing a network TV show, can be very confining. It's almost if they say, we love comedy, can you not do that? They invite the tiger to dinner and then they're surprised when they get bitten and scratched. Like, have you not seen how this art form works? Which gets back once again to context, which
Mhm.
gets also back again to intent. What was the intent of the comic telling that joke? Were they trying to prove a point and maybe doing it badly? There's some of us that don't do this very well. There's some of us who have off nights. There are times we sit in our respective kitchens and coffee shops and we write something and we think this is going to be brilliant, and then it comes out of our mouths and it's like, no, that's not it at all. But there's no room anymore, it feels like, to make those mistakes. So are you at an open mic? Are you at a Wednesday night show? Are you on a money weekend show? Are you on a TV special? There are a lot of variables here. We don't, oh yeah, we're so quick to not give any benefit
and
of the
and
doubt
there's a
anymore.
lot of things where, well, I mean, context is very important. So when something's quoted in
Yeah.
the paper, or the DJ, morning DJ, the next day is saying part of your line, they're not saying it with the same nuance, and
No.
their intent while saying the lines can be to upset people. Now you
Well,
mentioned writing just now, with like writing in coffee shops.
mhm.
Uh, w-
Yes, remember those pre-pandemic heady days when you went out and just sat somewhere? Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry. Sahil is saying it's like being gifted a Ferrari on your birthday, but with the condition it should never, the speed should never go over 40. Uh,
Yeah, right.
so
You know,
yeah,
I'm sorry, you had a question for me.
I
I
well,
interrupted you.
what is your writing process now? Since the coffee shops are, they're less well attended than they used to be. Where
Than they
are
used to
you
be.
a pen and paper person still, or
I'm both. I am both. I what I really am is a very ardent supporter of you capturing your ideas in any way possible. If that's pen and paper, if that's the note app on your phone, if that's dictation, it doesn't matter. You, what's most important is capturing an idea as it deigns to visit your brain, and that idea and what you were thinking and why why it's funny to you. You know, the worst for me is I'll go back and I'll see a note and I'm like, mayonnaise. Why was that funny? And now I'm lost. And now I'm convinced it's the funniest thing ever, but I didn't write down why it was funny to me. So writing down what it is and why it struck you, just to, a line or two, just to help yourself later in the process, because people go, oh, they want to sit down, they want to write, and what do I write about? You haven't captured any of those ideas that flitted through your brain. You've got to give yourself some kind of fuel, some kind of jumping off point. And it doesn't matter if you know what that idea is going to be yet. For me, ideally, it'd be nice if it turned into a joke. Sometimes it's something different. Sometimes it's, a screenplay. Sometimes it's a book. Sometimes it's a blog post. Sometimes it's just something you fire off on Twitter that gets you 1,000 new followers. I mean, you have no idea. You don't constrain the idea. You don't tell the idea what it has to be. You just have to recognize it. And then you get to work on it and play with it and see what it develops into. But that's not going to happen if you don't even respect it enough to capture it. So to me, I mean, that is the basis of all writing projects. And again, the method is not important. People want to argue left brain, right brain, that you writing it down does this with your brain, typing it does this with your brain. Yes, of course it does. In the meantime, you've written nothing because you're too busy debating the method. I use both. I like having a pen and paper. I like typing it, into my computer. I have a set book that's digital. It syncs now on my phone, my iPad, my computer. I can search terms. I love it. I absolutely love it. But then there are times when it's like, oh, I can't quite get to it on the keyboard. And so I've got to sit with a pen and paper and just sort of freehand and make those connections or make those edits. And then even that, the next step of that is getting it out of my mouth on stage, because sometimes you can write, and you think you get it perfect, or you get it as close to perfect as you think, and then you'll get on stage and forget that brilliant thing you wrote, and your brain and the moment serve up something even better that you couldn't have written. And I'm hoping that you're recording that. There's no reason in this day and age to not have your audio thing on your phone going so that you're capturing magic. I can't tell you how many comics still will say something gold on stage and go, "Oh my God, can somebody write that down?" And they're serious. They're not kidding. So you got to leave room for that magic to happen and be able to capture that as well. I know I've over answered this question and actually not answered the question in terms of how often I write, but I mean, you've got to set that foundation up for yourself.
I like the fact that you were not absolutely not concerned at all that it was part of a grocery list.
No.
Like when you found mayonnaise, it was
Oh, no, oh yeah, because okay, yeah, shopping and food shopping and cooking, yeah, not my forte. That's not where I shine. That's absolutely not a shopping list. I know that was the basis of a joke that I forgot for sure.
Sahil is saying mayonnaise. See, even funny when she said mayonnaise. She's that funny. It's pure genius. There
No,
is.
mustard. Mustard is pure genius. Mayonnaise, just kind of smart.
uh, it's got that soft end. A's. There is. It's not the mustard. The You didn't answer about how often you write, but I do
Right,
want to go into the
right.
fact that you did mention that you are writing screenplays, that you are writing books. You have books published as well, which people can they find the links on your website for the
Oh
books?
yeah, they absolutely can, and my books are on Amazon as well. And I do want to clarify, when I said screenplays, I when I what I meant was if you have an idea, it could be a joke or a book or a screenplay. That idea can be anything. When you first get it, you have no idea. I
Yeah.
wish I had I don't know, the discipline or the interest in doing screenplays. I mean, very early in my career, I took classes, I learned how to do them. Not really my thing. They're just not. I like joke writing. I like short forms. I like short essays, short stories, late night writing type of jokes. Both my books, Real Women Do It Standing Up, Stories from the Career of a Very Funny Lady, are just little mini essays that are, I guess, were written in the style of Irma Bombeck, because I grew up reading her, humor articles, and like, oh, I could do that. And I would capture an idea, and I kept writing, and it's oh, this is bigger than a joke, I would turn it into a little mini essay, and that's how I taught myself how to blog back in the day. And I did so many of them that I had enough to put together in a book. So that was a collection of essays, and that started as just ideas that floated by my brain, and I didn't let them go. My other book, which I absolutely love, Dict Jokes, but no one ever hears that. They just hear Dick jokes. It's yeah, it's alternate definitions for words you've probably never heard of, but will definitely never forget. And Dict, DICT, is short for dictionary, because I'm a bit of a word nerd. And then that was my course of study in college. I was a journalism and creative writing major. And what's
Just putting it up there so people can read it.
Thank you. Yes. Yes. I appreciate that. Whenever I do, like, American FCC radio, I've got to make sure I enunciate that T so nobody, gets fined. But I was that kid. I'm sure a lot of us have had that experience when you're a little kid. You're reading something and you don't know what it means, and you ask your parents. This was before cell phones, and they would go look it up. And you either look it up or you go, I don't want to do that, and you just figure it out from the context. And always the definitions that I came up with in my head were funnier than the dictionary, but almost always wrong, but still a fun game to play. And I didn't really realize I had continued that into my adulthood. And so I started posting them on social media. And someone said, you should do a book. And I'm like, really? So I did. And so, like, for an example, the word grammatology, it sounds like the study of grandmothers. It's not. you know, Book, what I really love is that I give you my funny definition, and then I give you the actual definition, and it's part of speech. So you can mess around and actually learn real definitions, or you could just have fun. And I like when I go to shows and I have my books with me and people flip it open and they come to a word and they just start giggling. And I'm like, that's it. That's for me. That's the price of admission for me. That
So it's
that
got the ha
tickles
ha
me.
ha and the aha together.
Yes. See, again, to enlighten and entertain, there's a running theme in what I do on stage and what I do in my books. So, yes, thank you for that.
Now, you mentioned having your material synced up, and Don is asking any tips on how to organize that magic. I track lots of ideas for jokes across so many devices and platforms that I lose track.
Yes, yes, that's a real issue. That's a real issue. I have flirted with many forms over the years. Like, is it index cards? Is it notebooks? Is it loose leaf because you can move pages in and out? Is it a single Word document? Is it many Word documents? Right now, the method for my madness is I use an app called Evernote, and I everything has a title, and then I write things out in the actual little notes. And that's really just to sort of capture the initial ideas. Then when I'm ready to really, really work on it, or to implement it, in my set, or try it out, I move it over to my set book, which is a Word doc, a giant, it's 300 pages plus. It has a table of contents, and like a bit, or a routine will have a section title, and underneath that will be bits. Each bit is titled, its punchline, and then each joke meticulously written out. And I think of these routines or these jokes as puzzle pieces. It's not a static thing, because I can then move them around or reorder them depending on the event, or the show that I'm doing. So a 10-minute set that I do on Tuesday might be different than the 10-minute set I do on Thursday. And those two different chunks plus another 10 might be cumulatively in a set that I'm doing on Saturday. But so that's how I organize it. Every now and then, don't do it very often because it's a lot of paper. I will print out my entire set book just so I can see it. Three hole punch paper so I can feel it, touch it, look at it. Sometimes looking at it and writing and making notes with my red pen, it's very nostalgic, and also just to give me a sense of uh, what needs to be worked on and edited. Because again, sometimes doing it on the computer is different than working with paper. But again, the foundational thing that I use to organize is Evernote for the capture and sorting of ideas, and then my Word document, which is, yes, I painstakingly set everything up in a table of contents. This is so bad.
it's
it's
it's not bad. It's look, comedians are never, well, not are rarely paid to be on stage. You're paid for all the stuff that gets you to prepare to be on stage.
Yes, yes. And I will share this. I did a show a few weeks ago where it was supposed to be a 3 show. I was doing 30 minutes. I was in the middle spot, the sweet spot. Cool, no problem. That morning, on the way to the gig, I'm at the airport. I find out that the third comic on the show can't be there. And the booker calls me and says, "Leighann, can you stretch?" Of course I can. But I hadn't been thinking that. I'm flying out thinking, okay, I'm just doing 30 minutes in the sweet
Mhm.
spot. And I go from that to doing an hour that night. And there's no time to rest. There's none of that. My entire time flying and sitting in the airport, waiting for my connection, I'm on my computer in my set book. Okay, like Lego pieces going click, 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 click. How do I build that 30 out into a 60?
Yeah.
And I actually did an hour and 10 minutes. But because I had my set book there, I'm like, okay, what can I click onto this to have that entire hour be memorable for me? That, oh yes, I remember what comes after this. Have
Mhm.
it be memorable, have it still be fun, have it make sense, and still have the audience have a good time. And I had to sort of refresh myself, because we don't often get to do hour-long sets, and just that's why routining is important, in my opinion, because if it flows logically, and maybe that's why I have the appearance of being a storyteller, I like things to make sense, like what naturally flows in my mind. It doesn't. An audience might not, but once they see it, they go, "Oh wow, how did you do that?" Well, it made sense to me, so I tried to make it make sense for you. But that's what having that set book and traveling with my laptop allowed me to do. On the fly, plus 30 years experience. Yeah, that too. That kind of helped.
Yeah, because you started when you were 10.
I did.
There's
I was a sweet young thing. I wandered into a comedy club.
Don is asking, Word isn't bad at all. I
Yes.
started a Word doc a few years ago with
Hmm.
hyperlink bookmarks as a backup
Yep.
to the app I use. I believe Don uses the Comedy Companion, which was created by a Canadian stand-up comic by the name of Derek Sweet.
Tell me
I
more.
want to
Comedy
toss that
Companion. What
now.
is that?
It's available on the App Store for both Apple and Google, and it's built in. You have to do either a lot of copy paste, or you
Okay.
to put your jokes into it, but it allows you to
Hmm.
order them, keep track of what you consider still new, still in development, or the ones that are set,
Hmm.
and then you
Hmm.
can create a set list by just dragging them over into it. And each time you perform that set list, you can actually record it with it. And so we'll keep track of the time for it as well.
I
So,
love that. That sounds what I've been doing myself my entire career in Word. I'm going to check this out. I think that's wonderful. That is really wonderful. Whoever
and
did that.
it's free. He presents that
What?
free for other comedians. Derek Sweet is his name. It's definitely somebody
I'm writing this
to
down.
yeah.
Wow, comedy companion. Yeah, because I, people have asked me, how do you do that? Can I do that? And I'm like, it's sort of like being I don't know, a home organizer. I could come in and I can organize your stuff, and then 2 weeks later, if it's not an organic process for you, it's not going to work. So, my level of meticulousness, and it sounds like Derek has found a way to do this for other people, which is great. But I when I do try to help people, I try to go from what is it that you're doing that is working and is not working, because my level of meticulousness is a little insane, but it's my insanity that works for me. What's the insanity that works for you, and consistently, so that you are managing to maintain and build your set. I mean, I think that's the goal. Whether you want to perform at colleges, which is an hour, you want to do TV sets, which are 5 minutes or less. What well are you pulling from, and how are you organizing that? So I'm definitely going to check out this comedy companion and see if it can do better what I've been doing on my own.
I only wish it had more connectivity because when I upgraded my phone, I had
Hmm.
to like physically translate
Oh
everything that was in.
no.
Yeah,
Okay, well,
that's the
but
only
that's
issue.
not
But it's a free app, so
that's not bad.
yeah.
In the sense that sometimes, we'll write stuff and maybe not go back and edit it, or not go back and review it, and sometimes we've got some dead weight there that we need to let go. And then sometimes we've got some, oh, I remember this. Why did I stop doing this? And you get to rediscover it, or you'll find something that you'll look at it and you
I think you just froze.
instantly fix
Sahil is saying that you're like a teacher. You're so
to
meticulous.
maybe painstakingly. I'm sorry, you froze for me too.
Okay, all right. You're. I can hear you again. Your picture is still frozen, but um, I think
Oh no,
we
that's
can.
just me not moving.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I think we're good. I
Uh, um,
have to say there's these things.
Go ahead. Oh no, you did warn me that StreamYard is difficult with you. So we're trying to make this work. Cut me off at any point in time. I do want to mention though that you do have a special coming up on Showtime in the near future. Uh, but I'm not sure if you've disconnected and will be reconnecting at this point. But yeah, Leighann Lord on Twitter. She's actually verified on Twitter, and you can also find out. Oh, there she's back. We're good.
I'm back. I'm back.
You're back.
Yes,
All right.
at least I hope.
Um, yeah. So obviously you've been writing for 30 years, so it's easy for you to write in your voice. So do you ever
Mm,
practice like vocalizing things before you bring it to the stage, like to maybe find the correct wording, or do you do that on stage?
yes.
Yes,
Both. Those are not
both.
mutually exclusive things.
No.
And it's funny you say that I have found my voice. It's interesting because your voice changes. What you go through in life. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago, 5 years
Mhm.
ago. We are growing and changing human beings. Um, I think I've become more comfortable in my pace. I wanted to be faster paced. I wanted to be more high energy because I think the bias is toward high energy comics. That's not who I am.
Mm,
I had to get comfortable with, "This is my pace, this is what I do." And I think that comes across as being confident and comfortable in my own skin. It is very important for me to get the words out of my mouth. Sometimes that first time on stage, doing material for the first time on stage, it allows you to just, like, I didn't say it right. It's like wrong, whatever that means. So I'm a big proponent of talking to myself in my car, in my kitchen, to my cat, just practicing. What does that sound like? Where are those pauses? What is that nuance? And
mm,
then still leaving space to figure out what that is on stage. I mean, I've learned to sort of maybe fill in for the audience at this point. That's why the
mhm.
pandemic wasn't so very hard for me. Well, I shouldn't say that. Performing in a square
Yeah.
wasn't as horrible for me as it was for other comics, because the voices in my head were quick to fill in what I couldn't hear uh, from them. But I like that practice. And then there are other times when I'm like, you know what? I just want to hear this on stage. I want to hear what this sounds like on stage. Like, there are times I'll just walk in and, like, I'll have that freedom depending on where I am to go, yeah, we gonna figure this out on stage, and feel that connection, feel that back and forth. So I think both things are valuable, at least for me, knowing how I like to, what my method is for developing and practicing new material, or even new
Mm,
connections. Sometimes material becomes new, not because it's brand new, but because you put it in a new place. Are you opening with it? Are you closing with it? Did you put it with something else that you didn't pair it with before? And all of a sudden it's like, okay, I don't know what this timing is now. I don't know where this pause is. And it becomes exciting for you as well. So yeah, positioning and attitude can make a joke that's supposedly old into something new as well. That's what, to me, makes this part of what makes this so exciting.
You just touched on the fact that in the past year in transitioning into online shows,
Mm, yeah.
how all right, in the past 20 months we've had the pandemic, we've had the political unrest in your country, you've had the uh, George Floyd moment, the Black Lives Matter movement. You've had so much that has
Hmm.
gone, and I'm saying your country, but it has affected everything globally.
Sadly, and I apologize on behalf of the United States.
But um, can you describe how that how what was your introduction like? How did that year happen for you?
Man, it's funny. I had shows that week, before we shut down, because I live in New York City, which at one point was the epicenter of the epicenter.
Yeah.
And it was, I'm not gonna lie, it was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. I remember I called the comic strip and I'm like, "Are we having a show tonight?" And they said, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Okay." And I got dressed, makeup on, was getting ready to get in the car, and I'm like, I don't even know if I want to go do this." And then they called and said, "Yeah, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
We're not doing the show." And then by the end of the week, we were
What
shut
what
down.
what what was the date for New York? For Montreal, it was March 17th.
I want to
We
say it
were
was the
like the seventh
14th.
worst hit city at the height.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Um, this is back when people still liked our governor, and we were the
Right.
daily briefings were happening. We were listening to this daily, bring out your dead death toll. Um, I was sitting in my house, and everything for us. I don't want to say everything, but our stock exchange, if you want to put it that way, for entertainment is Broadway. And
Hmm.
when Broadway shut down, and when, one of the largest school systems in the country, the New York City Public Schools, shut down, when they said, "Okay, we're shutting down the subways," it's like, what is happening? It was just, this is nothing you ever prepared for. And I spent a good couple of weeks easily, sitting on my couch going, have I just been retired? Like, is this it? Because I, I've made my living by and large as a performer, whether I'm doing stand up or, theater or corporate, training events, it's all in person. It's all live. It's all me showing up. And now we can't even leave our houses. Like, what does this mean? And I was really scared. Um, and someone reached out to me and they said, "Hey, Leighann, do you want to do?" It was Comedy Oakland. They said, "Do you want to do a Zoom comedy show?" And all I heard was show. And I said, yes. And then I said, "What Zoom?" And then my life completely changed. I remember they talked me through how to, download the app, and I had my laptop on top of a kitchen chair on top of my table, in the kitchen, and behind me was a tablecloth I'd sort of strung up, a red tablecloth, and I had these lights that I had from an old photo shoot, and I clicked those up. The cat's watching me set all of this up. He's not happy at all because it's blocking the refrigerator, it's blocking his bowl. He's like, "Yeah, I'm uncomfortable." And I'm doing this in my kitchen for the first, like, what is happening? And I'm in a square and people are like, "What?" And I did it. And here's the funny thing, a lot of my colleagues, very early on and even deep into this experience, refused to do online shows. They refused to
Yeah.
do Zoom. And no shade, it was scary. It was, people didn't know what they were doing. And I said, that's exactly why I'm going to do this. I'm getting to do something. Nobody knows what they're doing. Ergo, it is really hard to do this wrong. It is very humbling I don't care how many Emmys are on your shelf or how many TV shows you've written for everyone to be set back to the open mic level. That's kind of literally what happened. And I'm like, you can either, embrace it and figure out how to work it early on or not. And I chose to jump in. And when people see you doing something, they ask you to do it more. To the point, 11:30 tomorrow, I have a setup. I have like multiple green screens. I have, this interview space right here. I have it set up where I can actually stand and do shows. Like, I built a little comedy club via green screen and ring lights in my house. And I have a show 11:30 tomorrow for a nice little corporate group. And because a lot of people are still hesitant about coming out to live shows. Some companies have employees all over the place and want to do something nice for them. And I spent my pandemic building that skill. I'm hosting something called Skeptical Inquirer Presents twice a month. We do an online lecture series, and people that wouldn't have considered it 2 years ago are absolutely considering it now, because the world has changed. And so I got lucky. Yeah, I got lucky that I said yes. I got lucky that people saw what I was doing and hired me. And in that sense, I got to work during the pandemic. Was it a way I ever imagined or envisioned? No, it wasn't. When I got a chance to actually leave my house, I went from leaving my house my entire career to going, "You want me to leave my house?" Like, there was a shift within a year. But, yeah, of course, is performing in a Zoom square anything like performing live? Absolutely not. The live performance, there's nothing like it. It is joy and love when it's going well, and absolutely wonderful. Again, when it's going well. Um, but I'm glad I didn't turn down the opportunity to learn and transition and pick up new skills that I'm still using and still allowing me to work in ways that I never could have imagined before. So,
I think that was well said. Um, we've got Sahila's made a comment again. This is my first time for me listening to someone this funny and hearing how the brains of a genius work. And I love you and thank you, sir, for having her. It's my privilege that she said yes to doing this. I like personally. I found I do a lot of crowd work, so doing the Zoom shows were very hard.
yes.
But I did do a number of them, and I also did a hybrid show a comedy
Mhm,
festival in Calgary.
mhm.
So, which was a unique experience because in one of those squares actually had like a full audience in it, and I could see and hear them laughing from that.
Mhm.
Um, which
Well,
was
I'll say I'm sorry.
no, no, no. Go ahead. I'm here for your answers. I shouldn't be.
No, 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 no. Yeah, the hybrids are starting to happen more. That's interesting to me that, we're humans are really on our good days, we really do try to find ways to connect and make technology work for us, when we're not being super angry, bitter, and judgmental on Twitter. Um, but I had people ask questions like, well, how do you do a Zoom show? How do you MC a Zoom show? The same way you MC a regular show. When people walk into a comedy club or a venue, the MC's job is to set expectations, to remind them you welcome them in, you ask them to turn their cell phones off, you ask them to keep their table conversation to a minimum. I mean, these are just basic things that get repeated in some form or fashion. Every MC is different in how they do it. A Zoom show or a virtual show is no different. People are wandering into their square. What are the expectations? Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for being here. If there's a lot of noise where you are, can you mute your microphone? We'd like to see you. Oh, I should turn my camera on. I should not argue with my spouse now. So you're kind of reminding people the same way you guide them when they show up at the club is the same way you guide them when they show up in their square. The same way you have a bouncer at the club is the same way you might have that dedicated person now in the room that's monitoring, Zoom bombers or people that forgot to mute themselves. So we're adjusting to the format, and so we have these skills. We already have these skills. Now we just make them work in a different way. Again, we're very talented people. We can't forget that. And now we're just being asked to use our talents here in this space because there will still be people now that don't go out for whatever reason. Will it be the height it was last year during the pandemic? Probably not. Will it still be an avenue? I think so. I think so. It doesn't hurt to have that skill on your resume, in my opinion. Who's it hurt?
Don has a good follow up question saying, would you say that performing in a Zoom square is equal value for comics to working out new material on an open mic?
Yes. Equal value. Well, how do you value getting words out of your mouth and performing?
Hmm.
Um, I I think it's important. Sometimes it's even better on Zoom because it's very intentional.
Hmm.
You have got to want to be there. It's so easy to not. Um, I think, there have been times, believe it or not, during the pandemic, I showed up to virtual open mics. For the company and the camaraderie, there's a group called Comedy Therapy that really, really did a lot of work. And sometimes just, would set up the Zoom account and invite comics just to come and hang out because we needed that human connection, even if it is in a 2D space. And they also, hosted open mics. And I think getting those jokes out, those words out, um, in any way, shape, or form, keeps the muscle working. It's the difference between the workout in your living room or going to an actual gym. Is an actual gym maybe a little better? Yeah. Is working out in your home the same? No. But here's the thing, if you don't even do that, guess what's going to happen? You're not going to be developing at all. So, yeah, same here. Same here. I am not self motivated for working out. I keep saying, yeah, I'm going to do Zumba in my living room, and I do not.
Don saying, as a mom comic, I really like
Oof.
online open mics
Mm-hmm.
because I can work through jokes and not worry about getting a babysitter or Uber, etc. So,
That's real. That's real. I just did a show Saturday night, all female comics, veterans. Three were moms. I'm not an official mom. I did take care of my parents, which is momming on the senior end of things, which can be challenging. Um, but that's a thing that came up. Like, okay, if I do this gig, how much is a babysitter going to cost? I mean, that's those these are real world economics that factor in. Uh, I would say more so for moms than dads. I'm sure there are dads that had to do that math as well, but that's always a math thing for women to figure out. So there are benefits to being able to live from your living room, so to speak.
Now we're coming up on an hour. We've been over 50 minutes,
Wow!
but
Oh my goodness, so much talking.
no, this is brilliant, and I'm loving. I've been loving this conversation. Now, you didn't really touch much on the political side of what was happening in the past year, but
Oh, well, yes.
I was also going to ask, what are your hopes for the future? Like with as things are beginning to open up again.
That's a harder, um, I guess, thing to answer because I am a very casual student of history. And we always have the arrogance of thinking now is the worst time. We've never been more divided. It's never been harder. None of those things are true. It's just that it's happening on our watch. When it's happened before, it's been history, something dead or dusty that we've read in a book or was presented in a history class, and we weren't really um, able to experience the visceralness of maybe what our parents had to deal with. You know, my how much harder is race and racism or economic oppression for my parents, for my grandparents. You know, you say the nation meaning the United States is never more divided. I don't know. 1863 doesn't seem like a real happy time. So, you know, every generation, if you really look at it, has been dealing with something. And because we don't teach history properly, because we don't reckon with it, because we make these superficial changes at best, um, we keep repeating this cycle.
If I could interject, it's when people are looking at it through the lens of history, they see what the end was. Just
Right.
right now, it's scarier because we don't see the end.
Right. Right. Um, and then again, certain things repeat themselves at
Yeah.
nauseum. You know, I saw a documentary, I can't remember the name of it, but there was a quote that said, "We find new ways of doing the same old thing." You know, where we don't learn our lesson. And so there was some hope um, coming out of the end of 2020, you know, with the election. And I was not necessarily one of those hopeful people because I know how humans can be. Uh, it's hard to live that way. I often think, because I'm a huge science fiction fan, that one day Earth will be invaded by hostile aliens, and the aliens come and they go, you know what, you guys just aren't worth keeping around. You're just a horrible little species. And I would agree, and then go, but wait, and take them to perhaps one of our museums and go, wait, Van Gogh, you know, or wait, music, Miles Davis, you know, show them something that human beings have actually done that gives us a reason to not be wiped out of the galaxy, because on those are the things that give me hope. And I guess that comes down to um, art and music and interpersonal connections, because in groups we're yelling at each other, we're shaking our fingers at each other, we're screaming on social media, we're screaming on news stations. It's soundbite sound, you know, soundbite, and then back in a minute after we sell you something that you don't need, and then we wonder why we're not getting any better.
Mm-hmm.
um, but maybe it's, and I'm being really self-serving here, maybe it's when we um, sit in a room together and laugh, or we listen to music, or we, you know, binge watch the latest thing and we get to talk about it, and it doesn't matter what your politics are because we all enjoyed Ted Lasso, um, that there is some hope for humans. And so that's why I guess art in its various ways continues to be important and might be the thing that helps save us, if saving is possible.
Before we get into the final words, I'm just going to mention that scrolling on the bottom is the link tree. If you want to support the channel, please do so. Just go to linktr.ee/Paul Ash. And the first thing there says buy me a drink. And that money will go into helping keeping this channel alive and open. Don Zanklin is saying, I've been hanging on every word. It's an excellent conversation. Thank you
Wow.
both.
Thank you, Don. Thank you so much. I hope some of this has been reasonably coherent.
I well, I've been following along.
Good.
Uh, all right. There is Sahil is saying once we know the past, we become appreciative of the present, and I agree with her 100%. It's good to see a person of reason in amongst the chaos.
Mhm.
So,
I do try. It's not always easy. I'm an emotional human being, just like anybody else. But
and
I think
you have
adulthood.
jokes about how well you argue. How, so this is a different side of you.
Yes, yes, my humanist side, so to speak. Yes.
Yes. So yeah, for people, sorry, the Instagram is there. I imagine you still have something to say about wrapping up and hope for the future, uh, but your Instagram is there. That's where a lot of people can find out about
Hmm.
your shows, upcoming shows.
Yes.
You're
Hmm.
also fairly deadly on Twitter, and you're verified on Twitter as well. So
That just
if
means
you're
I'm a real human being. That's what that means.
and your website is veryfunnylady.com. Capitals are not important for the website, but it just kind of makes it easier for you to remember when you see it written there.
Yes. Hmm.
Um, Now, do you think with the future and you're hoping for social change, but you're not expecting it? You just want to keep producing art. Is that a good summary?
Can you say that again? Because I lost you there for a hot second.
That for the future, you are hoping for positive social change, but you're not expecting it.
Nope.
Uh, and but there is the belief in art being sort of a saving grace for humanity.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. Let's be really clear. It is all going to end in tears. It just is. Whether it's us individually or the planet, that's the direction that it's all going. Life is incredibly short, and we don't know how short for any of us. And so, if we can sort of temper our behavior and our actions and our expectations with that in mind, maybe we can make sure our lives and the lives around us, people's lives around us, are a bit more sweeter. If we understood just how finite, just how quick this all is. Um, so I don't know. Laugh a little more,
Yeah.
everybody. The tears will find you. Trust me. The hard times are coming. If you've just gotten out of them or you're heading into them, life is cyclical. So I wish I were more cheery than that, but I guess, but because again, it's been a long few years for me. I was taking care of my parents, and when you watch people age, when you watch people get sick, and you realize how really terribly short it really all is, it does make you appreciate the good times so much more, and even makes you create good times more so. So that's as hopeful as I can get.
I think that's the mission that for everybody who's watching is go out and create some good times. Go out and
Yes.
create the laughter. Use
Mhm.
Leighann Lord as your reference point, as your inspiration. Uh, Go out there and make people laugh. And I want to thank you, Leighann, for being part of this. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
being on my show. It's been an actual pleasure chatting with you. So,
Thank you for having me and being so patient with my scheduling mishigash. So I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's all good. You have to be patient with mine as well. So, got to wave goodbye to everybody, and I'll see you as soon as the stream ends.